It was a lazy Saturday afternoon, and the house was unusually quiet, a rare thing when Sarah, the 20-year-old self-proclaimed queen of mischief, was home. Her little brother Tommy, just 8 years old, was sitting cross-legged on the carpet in the living room, completely absorbed in building a Lego tower that looked like it could pass for a skyscraper in a city skyline. Sarah walked by, glanced at the colorful stack, and smirked. "Oh, what's this?" "The Leaning Tower of Tommy," she teased, bending down to poke the side of it just enough to make it wobble. Tommy frowned. "Don't touch it. It's almost done." That was the worst thing he could have said to Sarah. To her, "Don't" meant definitely do it again. She crouched beside him, pretending to be interested, but slyly slid one of the most important Lego pieces into her pocket. Tommy didn't notice at first, until he went to put the final block on top and it was missing. He looked around frantically. "Where's my piece?" Sarah shrugged with an overly innocent face. "Maybe it grew legs and ran away." The frustration on Tommy's face was growing by the second. She leaned in and made a goofy face, sticking her tongue out, then ruffled his hair so badly it messed up his concentration. That was the final straw. Tommy's lip trembled, his eyes watered, and seconds later, he burst into loud, hiccupy sobs. And just like that, the peaceful afternoon was over, because if there's one thing Sarah forgot, it's that when Tommy cries, Mom always comes running. The sound of Tommy's crying echoed through the house like an emergency siren. From the kitchen, their mother's voice called out, "What happened? Who's hurt?" Within seconds, Mom appeared in the living room doorway, hands still damp from washing dishes, eyes darting between her two children like a detective arriving at a crime scene. Tommy pointed a trembling finger straight at Sarah. She ruined my Lego tower. And she took my piece," he said between sobs, his little voice cracking like he had just testified in a courtroom drama. Sarah, sitting cross-legged with the most exaggerated innocent face she could muster, immediately jumped to her defense. Whoa. I didn't ruin it, I just helped with the architecture. It's called modern art." Mom wasn't buying it. "Sarah," she said in that calm but dangerous mom tone, "you're 20 years old. Why are you making your little brother cry?" Sarah scoffed. "I wasn't making him cry. I was just having fun. He's so sensitive." Tommy sniffled and crossed his arms. "You were mean." Mom sighed, shaking her head slowly. "If you want to play games, Sarah, I have one for you." Sarah perked up, thinking maybe this was her escape. "Oh? What game?" A small smile crept across Mom's face, the kind of smile that makes you instantly nervous. "It's called the tickle lesson." Sarah blinked. "The what now?" Before she could react, Mom stepped closer with a playful but determined look. Sarah instantly leaned back, half laughing, half panicking. Wait. What is that?" she asked, her voice already rising with suspicion. Mom's only reply was, "Oh, you'll find out." Sarah didn't know whether to laugh or run. Her mom was walking toward her slowly, like a cat stalking its prey, but with a mischievous glint in her eyes that screamed, "You're not getting away." Sarah held up her hands defensively. "Okay, hold on, can we just talk about this?" "I think we can resolve this peacefully," she said, backing up until her knees hit the couch. Mom didn't answer, she simply lunged. In a flash, Sarah was sitting on the couch, Mom's hands already finding their way to her sides. The moment those fingers started wiggling, Sarah exploded into laughter. "Ah ha 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 ha. "NOMOM, wait," she shrieked, doubling over and kicking her legs. Tommy, now fully recovered from his crying, stood nearby with the biggest grin on his face. "Tickle her more, Mom." She was so mean, he cheered like a tiny referee encouraging the match to continue. Mom kept her grip firm but gentle, moving her hands from Sarah's sides to under her arms, then to her ribs, each spot making Sarah squeal louder. "This, ha 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 ha, this is torture." Sarah gasped between fits of uncontrollable giggles. Mom just laughed. "This is called discipline. Maybe now you'll understand what it's like when someone won't stop even when you want them to." Sarah tried to roll away, but Mom pulled her back with one arm and continued the relentless tickle assault. Her hair was a mess, her face was red, and tears of laughter were streaming down her cheeks. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only a minute, Mom finally let go, stepping back and letting Sarah slump on the couch, still giggling breathlessly. Tommy clapped like he had just watched the best live show of his life. "That was awesome," he announced proudly. Sarah sat slouched on the couch, hair sticking out in every direction, trying to catch her breath between lingering giggles. Her cheeks were flushed, and she was still wiping away the tickle tears that had rolled down her face. Mom stood in front of her, arms crossed but with a small victorious smile. "Now," she said, "do you understand why your brother was upset?" Sarah groaned dramatically. Yes, I understand. You don't mess with people who are minding their own business, especially if they're building a Lego tower." Her Tommy grinned from ear to ear. "And you don't take their favorite piece," he added, wagging his finger like a tiny judge. Sarah chuckled, then reached into her pocket and pulled out the missing Lego piece. "Here, consider this a peace offering," she said, handing it back to Tommy. Mom raised an eyebrow. "And?" Sarah sighed and looked at her little brother. "And I'm sorry for teasing you." Tommy pretended to think for a moment, then smirked. "Apology accepted, but only if you promise not to do it again." Sarah leaned back with a mischievous grin. "Fine. But just know if you ever prank me, I'm calling Mom." Mom laughed. "Don't worry, Tommy. I'll be ready with the tickle lesson for anyone in this house." Tommy proudly went back to finishing his Lego skyscraper, and Sarah, still catching her breath, couldn't help but admit to herself that it was the funniest punishment she'd ever had.